All right, so today I want to talk about this tweet from Yukon Strong. He goes on to say, my latest article over at the Post Millennial discussing the unethical lobbyist tactics employed by Polycesovirian. Yeah, no, that's definitely not how you pronounce that. But anyway, and backdoor dealings with the Liberal Party to try and force an undemocratic gun ban upon Canadian gun owners. Um, and they basically go on to accuse, the CCFR, namely, again, which is a great gun organization. If you haven't checked them out, go check them out. Again, if you care about gun rights in Canada, which you should, they're probably the best organization. And if you want to keep gun rights, the little ones we have left in Canada, consider donating to them. But anyway, they accuse them of being, oh, you guys are trying to, sow disinformation. You're like just like the NRA. Again, just goes to show just how little that leftist gun owners know. Um, that being that most, at least the more knowledgeable gun owners in the states will tell you the NRA is actually, as far as gun rights organizations go, rather moderate. It's most of them will tell you it's actually Gun Owners of America is actually the best one. The NRA has caved on a lot of things when it comes to gun control. So they're not this, they want everybody to have a machine gun, everybody should have a full auto gun kind of gun rights organization. That's not the NRA's. They've supported several different gun bans, namely the bump stock one recently. But getting back to this in Canada, again, this is just another example of the left accusing the well, mainly the left accusing the right of things that they're doing, right? Like they always accuse the NRA of, lobbying, giving massive amounts of money to lobby, or to lobby people, government into implementing policies that the people don't really want. When in reality, it's the exact opposite. Like Planned Parenthood gave way more money. And again, I don't care about what you think about abortion. They gave way more money, and I think it was like 50 times the amount of money than the NRA did at the in 2018 at the congressional elections, and yet no one cares. Again, the NRA, number one, the NRA it's entirely donation driven. Like the money, if the NRA has a lot of money, that means that the people support the NRA. If Planned Parenthood, for example, has a lot of money, it's because they got it through taxation. Like how many people donate money out of the hard-earned money to Planned Parenthood, or in Canada, I don't even know what our we don't really have a big abortion industry or company or whatever you want to call it. But again, how many people donate money to that? Like no one. Like no one. But yet tons of people donate money to gun rights organizations, which means people actually care. And we know that the left doesn't care about this kind of stuff. They don't care about stopping crime. The real reason that they're for gun control is, number one, they completely don't understand guns whatsoever. Like you had all these. I was watching this interview about this California gun store owner in Los Angeles, and during this recent outbreak, a lot of he said there's a ton of new gun owners. Like 90% of the people that came in to buy guns were new gun owners, and he said the overwhelming majority of them didn't know that there was a 10-day waiting period in California. In that, basically, the point being is that the overwhelming majority of people have no idea what the laws are currently, like literally no idea. Like most Canadian gun owners, I bet you couldn't even tell you off the top of their head. And I'm talking gun owners, couldn't even tell you off the top of their head um, how to legally transport, store, and what it takes to shoot a restricted firearm. Like most probably couldn't, even though a lot of them have those licenses. So number one, because there's so much stuff to remember, and that the list is so long of laws you have to abide by. And number two, most people are very clueless on the topic. The average non-gun owner, I bet you can't even tell you what you need to buy even a long rifle or a non-restricted rifle. I bet you they can't even tell you one thing off the top of it. And they might tell you, oh, a license. What do you need to get the license? How old do you have to be? I guess that one would be obvious. It's 18. But how old do you have to be to get the license in the first place? Which you can be under 18. You just can't get the full-on license. Um, but again, the point I wanted to get at here is I should really start to come up with a list here of things the left accuses the right of that they're either exclusively guilty of or more guilty of than the right. And this is just added to the list. Again, they claim that they care so much about the poor. Their policies clearly and objectively hurt the poor. Like I say, welfare spending 17 times higher adjusted for inflation than it was when it was first brought in, but yet they still seem to think that it's not nearly enough. Again, when does it ever end? You look at the more left-leaning states. Again, which state has the biggest homelessness crisis going on right now? Oh, right, California. Which one is it in Canada? Oh, right, Toronto. Um, and again, it's these. I mean, I know Toronto currently has a right-wing government in, but for the overwhelming majority of their not the overwhelming majority, the majority of their history, they've been ran by left-wing governments. Not only that, a conservative government only has so much power over what goes on. Like look at Alberta. We have a government who's desperately trying to get the oil and gas sector going again, but yet most of it is impossible because they're blocked. So, although they do have a conservative government in right now, I mean, first of all, I think that it would be fair to say that the last government, the government under Wynne, has completely, you know, destroyed the province in massive amounts of debt. Like Ontario has such high amounts of debt, it's not even funny. And yet, look what they have to show for it. Like, do they have the best economy in North America? Like, no, they don't. Their economy is decent, but it's not great, and it's going to get a whole lot worse in the coming times. Everywhere is going to get worse, but them especially. Um, but getting back to the main point here, I just wanted to bring this up. Number one, because gun rights is an incredibly important topic that a lot of people ignore, but even on the right, in that if the left can take if the government can take your guns, then what's to stop them from implementing any policy they want? There's nothing, like nothing. And the argument makes no sense too from the left. Like on one hand, they'll say, "Oh, well, only the police and the military should have guns," or the way their laws are set up, only the police and military should have guns. But yet they think the cops are this massively corrupt, racist group of people, and they think the military, only exists to go, for exploiting the poor places, the Middle East and Africas of the world, which they're right to an extent. Again, so how can you advocate for that? How can you advocate for that? And one of the other reasons too is it's just more projection. They don't trust themselves with a gun, therefore they assume no one should have a gun. It's just projection at every step of the way when it comes to this kind of stuff. And one of the reasons the right isn't as guilty of this is that they don't project like that. Like how many religious right wingers do you have projecting their own that donate a bunch of money to charity? How many of them do you know that are anarchists? Because if you're someone who's perfectly fine donating a decent proportion of your income to charity, then there's no reason not to be if you're the projection mindset, there's no reason not to be an anarchist because you'd be perfectly fine helping the poor. Again, so the left, it pretty much just exclusively projects, and I think projection is it's definitely an aspect of people who are unintelligent, of people who are not well read. And not well read as in you went to college, well read as in you actually read about important topics on your own time. um, Basically that's kind of what that means. But again, to bring it full circle, the left trying to claim that, again, the main reason, like I said, that they're for gun control is they want to expand the size and power of government. Gun ownership stands directly in the face of that. That's in brought, you know, as much of a nutshell as you can put it in. That's why the left wants gun control. There's other aspects to it, but again, and the reason why that they have a motive that they're not being honest about is that they always claim it's for public safety, even though it doesn't improve public safety. I've made videos about it. The states in the U.S. that have the loosest gun control don't have more states or more crime than the states that have the most gun control. And you think that if the and that's one thing too, that it's so hard for Canadians to understand, and again they're so dumbed down too with propaganda, that in Canada the gun control is the same in every province. Now how it's enforced maybe be slightly different, but as the letter of the law it's the same. The states it varies drastically, and that some states you can conceal or open carry a handgun without a license, as long as you can pass a background check you can do that. In some states, you can't even get a concealed carry permit if you have, a restraining order against someone. Like, seriously, that's just how in Canada there was points in time to where you can. I don't even know if they still allow that, but there was points in time where they allowed that. And I'm talking after the gun control was implemented in the 90s. So again, I just wanted to bring that up because it's very crazy, and again, people just don't understand. They're so uneducated. It's not even funny, and it kind of comes down to the whole Dunning-Kruger effect. That, in a nutshell, the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I should make a video about it. But it's the less you know about a topic, the more you think you know, basically. And then if you've ever talked to someone who's a true expert on the topic, you'll find most of the time they won't talk incredibly confidently. They'll talk confidently, but they'll still show some doubt. And this, like, I know this personally. You probably know this personally. Like, take a topic that you're an expert in, or you're more knowledgeable than the average person in, and you talk to someone who isn't nearly as knowledgeable as you about it. Most of the time, people have a very strong opinion, probably even more strong than yours, and yet they know way less than you. And that's what it comes with all these political topics. And I think that's the way that the public schools are designed, in that they're designed to teach people the least amount while making it appear that they know the most. Um, and the reason for that is that a public school education, a college education as well, is largely pointless. It's largely a scam. You don't really learn all that much. The only valuable stuff you learn in public schools is the stuff you learn, like reading and spelling. But that kind of stuff happens when you're really little. Middle school, high school is largely pointless. That should be done. People should be doing a lot more. Job skill training. Um, economics. History, that kind of stuff is what we should be teaching, not selective history. Not, let's just talk about the Nazis and how bad they were, but we're going to ignore the communists, even though they were far worse than the Nazis. And that's not to excuse the Nazis for any reason, but again, I'm just pointing that out. Um, but anyway, kind of to sum it up here, I know I've said that already, but this stuff is very important because if the left can push gun control through, then that means they can push anything through, because pushing gun there's no actual reason to push gun control through. We've had several major police chiefs in Canada come out and say gun control won't do anything, and implementing a gun ban will cost billions of dollars every year, because number one, you'll have to buy back the guns. There'll be a large percent of people that won't even sell the guns back to begin with. And the other problem is, we know that about 80 to 85% of guns used in crimes are brought in from the States, which means that you're only going to have at most 10-15% effect on crime. And that won't happen, because the small percentage of legally used guns, or legal guns, that were used in crimes, those people will generally just that'll just increase the demand for illegal guns, which means maybe you'll have a 5% reduction in crime, and you're going to spend billions of dollars doing that. If you turned around and spent that money on cancer research, you would save 100 times more lives. Again, the argument makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, I wanted to bring that up because it's a very important topic. And again, the left is just projecting. They're just projecting. Okay, if they actually cared about saving lives, they wouldn't focus 1 second on gun control. They wouldn't focus 1 second. They care because they want, like I say, it's summed up in the least, in the smallest way you can possibly sum it up, without getting into too much detail, is the left wants more gun control because they want to increase the size and power of the state, and they can increase the size and power of the state to an infinite degree if there's nobody that can say no in a physical way. Because if there's a gun ban, well, then guess what? The government has a monopoly on the use of force. And for all the people that support this kind of stuff, do you want Donald Trump to have that right? Do you want Donald Trump to have that right to implement any policy that let's just say that, next election cycle, the Trump gets reelected, which is overwhelmingly going to happen. The Republicans keep the Senate, the Republicans gain the House. Guess what? The Republicans can pass any policy they want. Would you want that? No, you wouldn't. So let's I mean, gun control should be much looser in Canada. Like, it's already way too strict, way too strict. It costs a lot of money. There's a ton of bureaucracy involved. It's not helping anything. Um, so basically, I'm going to leave it there. I've talked enough about this topic. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you like the video. Check out my PayPal or an email address linked in the description. I appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And last thing, as always, check out my BitChute channel if you haven't already. Um, yeah, YouTube's gonna ban me or censor me at some point. Most likely, I'm not saying 100% for sure, but again, check that out if you haven't already.